We're 2 days removed from the Steelers season ending, and we already got potential moves, rumors, and speculation all over the place. First, right off the jump, the Cleveland Browns, the team the Steelers just defeated by a decent margin in Week 18, didn't even have the decency to wait a couple days before requesting to interview one of the Steelers' defensive assistants in Brian Flores. The Browns fired their defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, on the spot, and then they looked over to the Steelers sideline and said, hey, why don't we get one of those guys over there, because they obviously know what they're doing. If it wasn't for this shitty penalty call, we wouldn't have been able to put up over double digits against that Steelers defense. Now for Flores, we get it. This makes sense. You want to move up. You want to get a better title, a better position. But the question is, at what cost? Going to the Browns? Now, if it's a different team, or really most other teams, sure, but most good things just go to Cleveland to die. It just don't hit the same. Now, there are some outliers, but if your only options are between Cleveland as the DC or staying here in Pittsburgh as the LB's coach, as a defensive assistant, it might be wise to stick around here. But the catch is, I don't think those will be his only two options. I'm sure he's going to get some head coaching interviews and other defensive coordinator opportunities. I just selfishly want Flores to stick around in Pittsburgh for another year. I already think it was house money that we got him just for one. If we got him for another, that'd be absolutely insane. Next up on the docket, well, Cam Heyward, the Steelers defensive leader, podcast host, and the guy that butt tweeted this out, will he be back with the Steelers in 2023? Can't believe we are asking this question this soon into the offseason. But here's what Cam had to say, and apparently he's not taking anything for granted.
You know, that's something we can build on in the future, but the team doesn't look the same every year. And guys move on, guys retire, guys get traded. You bring in new guys. It's just a different formula every year. But I'm just so appreciative of every guy just trying to get better every single day. I can't say thank you enough to Steelers Nation for going on this journey this year and watching a lot of guys grow.
And then here's Coach Tomlin's response to Cam's answer.
Cam Heyward said something quizzical about if they want me back. Is there any reason we should be concerned or think that you guys would not?
Cam is the same type of guy that will put a tape job with his last name on the front of his helmet in a training camp like setting. That's what makes him who he is. He takes none of this for granted, and that's just an expression of that. Just like when he puts his last name on his helmet in a training camp-like setting. He is special because he has a special approach, because he is legitimately humble and hardworking, and he takes none of this for granted. And so that's probably what that was.
Now, for my best guess, Cam will be back. But I do understand why it's a legitimate option being discussed, because if Cam sticks around, his cap hit is going to be $22+ million in 2023. And if the Steelers decide to cut him, his dead cap hit is going to be, let me check real quick, $12.8 million, which would essentially be like a $10 million cap savings if the Steelers decide to go in that direction. But I don't think that's enough to just remove Cam Heyward from the roster altogether, for multiple reasons. One, his play. 10.5 sacks in 2022 as an interior defensive lineman. That's elite stuff right there. Now, I know he didn't get off to the best of starts, but over these last several games, he was looking more like his old self. And then two, just for leadership. We got a good young squad, and you need some savvy vets around to lead the group, so why not Cam Heyward? He's been a Pittsburgh Steeler. He knows the culture here, and he's still playing at an elite level, as I mentioned. My comparison is Cam could be like that 04-05 version of Jerome Bettis. What Bettis was to those teams, Cam could be to this unit right here. Although I do think Cam Heyward still has more gas left in the tank than what Bettis did back in those days. My simple solution is figure out some type of restructure and get Cam back on the roster in 2023, which is what I think the Steelers will do. And then last topic before I get out of here. It is a little dated. This one was reported on Saturday, but I did not get a chance to talk about it. Mitch Trubisky regrets signing so quickly on the first day of free agency. Here's what he has to say to Brooke Pryor. Everything happened kind of quick. I didn't really have a long time to think of the decision. I wish I would have taken some more time and not just signed the first day of free agency. Looking back on it, just try to do some more research. But I felt like they were interested. I felt like it was a good opportunity to possibly get back on the field, but nothing's guaranteed. Listen, man, in my opinion, to Mitch, I feel like you actually made a great decision. There's no reason to regret it. You stepped into a really good opportunity for you to start. You were going to compete with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins for the starting spot. There were great young weapons on offense in a Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, Claypool at the time, Najee Harris. We improved the offensive line. Now, that happened after the fact. You got a great head coach in Mike Tomlin and also a good organization. So this was set up in a good way for you to succeed, to take a starter spot back in the NFL. But the monkey wrench that was thrown into this was the Steelers drafting Kenny Pickett. But you can't beat yourself up over that because you can't account for the Steelers drafting Kenny Pickett. First, he was projected to go in potentially the top 10 or the top 15. Like, he wasn't necessarily on the Steelers' radar. If this is all from the mock drafts and stuff, we didn't know what was happening inside the building. Obviously, Tomlin was thinking Pickett as the top guy all the way. But, man, yeah, you can't account for the Steelers drafting Pickett. One, you don't know if he was going to be there when the Steelers drafted. And two, you didn't know if the Steelers were going to draft him if he was available anyway. We didn't know what direction the Steelers were going to go because they brought in you. So the questions were like, oh, do we still, why take a guy in the first round when we brought in a former talented guy, a guy that went number 2 overall, and Mitch Trubisky? Maybe you could just afford to take a guy in the second or third round and have him sit for a year because there were other pieces to address. But drafting Kenny Pickett, the Pittsburgh guy, definitely threw a little curveball in this situation for you. And yeah, it was tough. It was tough sledding. I'm not going to lie. But in terms of getting an opportunity, listen, you were the starter all the way through the offseason. You were the starter in week 1. And going back, I remember I said this. I remember a lot of people said this. I felt like we just needed more from the offense. So if you weren't going to deliver that X factor or that extra step that we needed, then why not go with the young guy who, in my opinion, I thought could do everything that Mitch was doing up to that point. So why not put the rookie in there and see what type of upside that he has? It's just one of those scenarios. It's going to be better for both sides to move in the offseason, go their separate ways. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. Steelers are going to trade Mitch Trubisky at some. I don't know what the compensation is going to be, but he's going to be looking to maybe try to get that final shot at being a starter in the NFL, competing for it somewhere else. And yeah, we got our guy in Kenny Pickett. But that's it for this edition of Big Deke News. Let me know what you guys think of some of these topics discussed down below. Stay chilling on this fine Tuesday. Peace.